Good morning, I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching as always, it is appreciated. If you find value in this video, consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot and it goes a long way to making this channel a success. Nigel Farage has come under fire over the past few days about alleged bullying that happened nearly 50 years ago. This week saw a leftist hit piece by the BBC, The Guardian and other interested parties that want to keep Nigel Farage out of 10 Downing Street. And judging by the recent polls, that's all they've got, is smearing the politician for things that may or may not have been said 50 years ago. So I'm going to get into the article. I'm sure many of you are aware of what we're talking about here, but we're going to go into it in a bit more detail here. In recent weeks, The Guardian has heard allegations from more than a dozen school contemporaries of Farage who recount incidents of deeply offensive behaviour throughout his teenage years, so when he was a kid. This is not the whole picture. Others that knew Farage remember he was bumptious, rude, provocative and enjoyed being the centre of attention, but do not recall the behaviour described by, I can't even pronounce that name, and others. There is no claim that Farage the man must still hold the same views as ones ascribed to Farage the boy, but these memories of him left marks, ones that haven't dissolved with the passage of time, and are often revealed again when they talk about issues such as immigration. So, we have leftists who are having an axe to grind against Farage, going back to school children and saying, do you remember what this person said 50 years ago? And then they've capitulated and said yes, and because he's anti-immigration, we find that sort of rhetoric triggering. And that's what it's about. They say they want to see more moral clarity from a man who could be Britain's next Prime Minister. What's troubling, one explained, is the lack of contrition in the intervening decades. A few ex-pupils have spoken to The Guardian to say they are deeply ashamed of their own part in the singing racist songs. That's the first part. The former classmate, Peter Ettigau, I'm going to go with, told the newspaper, my grandparents escaped from Nazi Germany and I was taught with deep gratitude about how welcome they felt in the UK. I never experienced anti-Semitism growing up, and this was the first time that this vicious verbal abuse came out of Farage's mouth. It was deeply shocking. And other people said, who will not be named, told The Guardian, Farage had taught younger members of the combined cadet force at Dulwich racist football terrorists on gas and more. In a recent statement, Reform UK said these allegations are entirely without foundation. I have a bit of personal experience about being bullied in high school. I wasn't just called names, I was psychologically abused for years on end by a large amount of the student body, both people who were below me in age at school and above me. I was physically assaulted on school grounds, in the classrooms, and on the way home from school, and I was actually got permanent damage, shall we say, permanent damage to my teeth, and permanent damage to one of my legs where I can't even walk correctly now, and this is nearly 30 years after the fact. The point I'm trying to make is everybody is bullied in school. Now, whether these allegations are proven or not proven is besides the point. The point of the matter is, why does The Guardian have to go back 50 years to try and get some sleaze or mud on Nigel Farage? And more to the point, what are these people that they're going to for comments? What are they gaining from this? These are the critical questions that you should ask. Me, as a victim of really, really severe bullying in school, I can tell you now, I hold no candle for the people that bullied me. If any media outlet tries to come to me to get dirt on people that physically and mentally assaulted me in school, I would tell them, in no uncertain terms, to go and jump off a bridge. Alright, it doesn't interest me. I have no interest in it at all. It says very much more about the people that have agreed to do this and the newspapers that are doing it than it does about the potential bully, because it was over 50 years ago. That's my view on the matter. It says far more about the people willing to attack Farage than it does about any potential slights from over 50 years ago. I'm going to play a clip now, and this is from Farage today on GB News, where he's come out and actually categorically denied it. He did come out with a previous statement that was a bit mealy-mouthed and sort of said, well, recollections may vary. If I did make these comments, they weren't intended the way they were taken, essentially, but he's actually come out today with a categorical denial. So I'm going to play this now.
Yeah, and you got, as I said, a former Conservative leader of Kent County Council. It's very, very political, but we have to understand, that there are people that appear on GB News who will say things that some out there in the wider world take serious offence to, and they'll use the racist word about it. It doesn't mean it's true, it's just the way people approach things these days. I categorically deny saying those things to that one individual, and frankly, for The Guardian and the BBC to be going back just shy of half a century to come out with this stuff, it shows how desperate they are.
Completely agree. Everything about Farage is authentic, I would say, and this is what scares the mainstream establishment. They don't like this because everyone knows his dirty little secrets, and they don't care. They're going to vote for him anyway, they're going to vote for reform anyway, and this is what the establishment hates. All of their smears and all of their attacks don't seem to be working.
One individual has also spoken to the BBC this evening just before we came on broadcast, Peter Ettergui, and he said the most vivid memories of his school life were those comments which bear repeating about gassing Jews and Hitler was right, and he called you fundamentally dishonest. Is it your opinion that he's being fundamentally dishonest? Is this a case of recollections may vary, or is he lying?
Look, had what he said been true, do you think I'd have been promoted in the 6th year to be a prefect? Do you think I'd have become a senior member of the school if they really thought, if the school knew and thought any of that stuff was true? And I'd point out, beyond him, and his recollections are wrong, beyond him, all the others say is they disagree with me politically, which is perhaps not a huge surprise.
So all the people who are accusing him of racism from 50 years ago when he was a kid all disagree with him politically. Gee, what a fucking shocker.
I would say this to you though, in a long career in public life that lasts over 30 years, I've done more in this country to defeat the BNP, to defeat the far right. I didn't even take the money from Elon Musk earlier this year because he wanted me to associate with Tommy Robinson.
Bit of a mistake here, but I think it's part of the plan. See the video I'll link at the end of this video for the reason why this is part of the plan.
I have been the force in British politics fighting against racism and against extremism. And it's only when you get near the target, perhaps winning a general election, that all this stuff comes out.
On the accusations of anti-Semitism, isn't it fair to point out that you've been a very vocal supporter of Israel and the Jewish community since October the 7th, 2023?
Well, let's go way back before that, shall we? The Jewish owner of the Daily Express came out as a big supporter of myself, of UKIP, made a big donation to UKIP when I was running it. I mean, my lawyer, has been with me for a decade and a half. I've had huge support from the Jewish community over many, many of my years in UKIP, the Brexit Party, and now with Reform. And yes, of course, since October the 7th in particular, I've been a very strong supporter of Jewish rights in this country.
So we'll leave that one there. Now, typically from the BBC, they had a jab at Farage on Newsnight. Not balanced, not in the slightest, unless you count three of the immediate shills. We have Nicholas Watt, Gillian Tett, and Sam White, who is a former Chief of Staff to Turkey. Unless you count that as balance, then you're going to be disappointed. But we're going to play these two clips now from Newsnight.
Gillian Tett. Is this going to affect Nigel Farage's appeal to certain voters?
It's hard to know, because although this is likely to provoke a lot of outrage in Islington and places like that, the reality is I think many voters would actually have some sympathy with this point that most of us can't remember what we said 50 years ago and weren't necessarily the best versions of ourselves when we were age 13. And the other point to make is that what we've seen in places like America is that voters are often willing to tolerate all kinds of really unpleasant stuff from candidates if they like them as a protest candidate or they think they are anti-establishment. And in some ways it actually doubles down on this sense of being anti-establishment. So certainly these allegations, do look pretty, disturbing, but I have my
Disturbing that a child may have said something that you don't agree with 50 years ago. That's disturbing. Alright.
doubts as to whether it's actually going to change any voter's mind.
Gillian Tech.
So we'll leave that
Is
one
this gonna
there.
affect Ni-
We'll leave that one there. And then we'll go on to the next clip now.
Is this the scrutiny you should expect if you are hoping to be Prime Minister of your country?
Well, I mean, as I was saying a moment ago, I think the level of categorical denial that he has issued tonight after the caveated denial yesterday, where he directly contradicts these large number of people making quite specific on-the-record allegations, has taken it from a 50-year-ago issue to a today issue, and that matters.
No, what matters is that you have to go 50 years back to try and find something that you think you can use. That's pathetic. Bear in mind that the people running this news story are The Guardian. Half of the circulation of The Guardian is thanks to the BBC, the amount of copies that are sent into The Guardian every day. They're completely on the same page. So the BBC, your Guardian and the Labour Party, they're all on the same page politically, and this is a prime example of that.
And there's not alone. There's a lot of things which are far more recent. Using pro-Russian talking points as Farage has at the times when talking about Ukraine. Reform leader in Wales having to be convicted for 10 years for taking money. There are much more recent things which give real concern to voters who want to be patriotic.
So what do you think? Do you think this political witch hunt against Farage is going to have any legs? I certainly don't. As I say, as a bully victim, if anybody came to me saying, do you want to dish the dirt on these people that bullied you in school, I'd be very no commenty about it. Okay, that's between me and them, and I've got no interest in trying to score points 50 years down the line. It's disgusting. Now, if you like this video and you think I make some decent points, comment, like and subscribe, do all that great stuff. I will see you in the next video. You take it easy, and thank you for watching.